Waitress humiliated in a restaurant. The owner installs cameras in the kitchen. Years later, she reappears, bringing back memories and seeking redemption. The restaurant, oasis of flavor, buzzed with energy on a busy Friday night. Laughter and chatter filled the air as customers enjoyed their meals. In the midst of this lively scene, Marigold Prescott moved gracefully between tables, her bright smile lighting up the room. She served steaming dishes with a sense of purpose, her heart full of hope and dreams for the future. "Here you go, one pasta primavera, just for you," she beamed, placing the dish in front of an elderly couple who smiled back with gratitude. But not everyone shared her joy. Harold Whitman, the restaurant owner, lurked behind the counter, his eyes narrowed as he watched Marigold work. A smirk played on his lips, revealing a darker side to the bustling atmosphere. "Look at her," he muttered to himself, his voice low and filled with contempt. "Always acting like she owns the place." He plotted in silence, a cruel plan taking shape in his mind, determined to show Marigold who was really in charge. As the night wore on, the restaurant continued to fill with patrons. Marigold's laughter rang through the air as she chatted with customers, but Harold's eyes burned with envy and malice. He waited for the perfect moment to strike. Then, it happened. With a sudden, loud clap of his hands, he commanded attention. "Everyone, may I have your attention, please?" His voice boomed through the room, cutting through the chatter like a knife. Marigold froze. She sensed something was off. "What's going on?" she whispered to herself, but the answer soon became clear. Harold pointed directly at her, his finger jabbing the air. "This is our star waitress, Marigold. Isn't she just the best?" A few claps erupted, but they quickly faded as Harold's tone shifted. "But let me tell you, she has a habit of messing up orders." Laughter erupted from the crowd, and Marigold's heart sank. She felt the heat rise to her cheeks as embarrassment washed over her. "Last week, she served my steak well done when I ordered it medium rare. Can you believe that?" he continued, his voice dripping with sarcasm. The room filled with laughter, but to Marigold, it felt like daggers piercing her heart. "Maybe she should stick to serving drinks instead of food," he added, his grin wider than ever. Stunned silence followed as Marigold's world shattered. The laughter that once surrounded her now felt like a cruel echo. She stood there, frozen, every eye on her, and all she could feel was the weight of her past crashing down. I'm sorry," she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. The words hung in the air, heavy with shame. "Sorry doesn't cut it here, Marigold," Harold sneered, enjoying the power he wielded in that moment. "You're fired." The finality of his words hit her like a punch. Gasps erupted from the crowd, but Harold simply waved his hand dismissively, turning his back on her. As she stood there, the laughter faded, replaced by a deafening silence that echoed louder than any noise. Marigold's heart raced as she hurried to gather her things. The smiles of the customers who once admired her now felt like daggers. With each step toward the exit, the memories of her dreams and hopes faded away, replaced by a crushing sense of failure. "I can't believe this is happening," she thought, tears brimming in her eyes. As she stepped outside into the cool night air, the weight of her past pressed down on her. The streetlights flickered, just like her fading hopes. Where was she supposed to go now? The uncertainty loomed over her like a dark cloud. She took a deep breath, feeling the chill of betrayal wrap around her like a heavy blanket. In that moment, Marigold realized that her journey had only just begun, though she had no idea what lay ahead. Years had passed since Marigold Prescott had walked out of the oasis of flavor, her heart heavy and her dreams shattered. Now, she stood behind the counter of a small cafe called The Cozy Nook in a nearby town. The cafe was modest, with worn wooden tables and a chalkboard menu filled with daily specials. The scent of coffee and fresh pastries filled the air, wrapping around her like a warm blanket. Marigold had worked hard to rebuild her life. She took pride in her culinary skills, crafting delicate pastries and hearty sandwiches. Each time she pulled a tray of golden croissants from the oven, she felt a flicker of joy. Yet, beneath this new life, shadows of her past lingered. One busy afternoon, while she frosted a cake, her co-worker Lily approached her. Lily was a kind soul with an infectious laugh. She had always supported Marigold, urging her to share her dreams. "Hey Marigold," Lily said, leaning against the counter. "Have you ever thought about opening your own bakery? I know you love baking." Marigold paused, her hand stilling over the cake. The thought sent a rush of excitement through her, but it was quickly followed by a wave of doubt. "I don't know, Lily. What if I fail again? What if I can't handle it?" Lily placed a reassuring hand on Marigold's shoulder. "You're so talented. You've come so far. You deserve to chase your dreams, no matter the risks." Marigold looked into Lily's eyes and saw genuine belief reflected back at her. The warmth of encouragement was a balm for her insecurities. Still, the memories of her humiliation at the oasis of flavor clawed at her mind. The laughter of the customers, Harold's cruel words, and the way she had felt so small, all of these moments echoed in her thoughts. "I want to," Marigold finally admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But it's scary to think about going back. It feels like opening a door to a past I want to forget." Lily nodded, understanding the weight of those words. Maybe you need to face that past to move forward. It could help you heal. Have you thought about visiting your grandmother? She's not doing well, right? The mention of her grandmother sent a jolt through Marigold. She had been meaning to visit, but the thought of returning to her hometown filled her with a mix of fear and anticipation. What if she ran into Harold or someone from the cafe? The old feelings of shame could resurface, and she was not sure if she was ready for that. "I know I should go," Marigold said, biting her lip. "But I'm terrified of what I might feel. What if I can't handle it? Sometimes facing your fears is the first step to healing," Lily replied gently. "You've grown so much. You have the strength to face whatever comes your way." Marigold took a deep breath, feeling both the weight of her past and the flicker of hope that Lily's words ignited. "You're right. I'll go. I need to see her, and maybe it's time to confront my past too." As the cafe buzzed with the chatter of customers and the clinking of dishes, Marigold made up her mind. She would visit her grandmother, and in doing so, she would also revisit the place that had once caused her so much pain. In the days leading up to her trip, Marigold prepared herself. She practiced deep breathing to calm her nerves and spent time imagining the bakery she dreamed of opening. A place filled with warmth, love, and the sweet aromas of pastries. A place where she could share her talents without fear. The morning of her departure, she packed a small bag, including a few of her favorite recipes. She felt a flutter of excitement mixed with dread. As she drove toward her hometown, familiar sights came into view, each one stirring a memory. The old streets felt both comforting and intimidating. Marigold's heart raced as she neared the oasis of flavor. It loomed before her, a reminder of her past. She took a deep breath, ready to face whatever awaited her, determined to reclaim her narrative and embrace the possibility of transformation. Marigold stepped off the bus, her heart racing as she took in the familiar sights of her hometown. The streets were just as she remembered, lined with old brick buildings and blooming trees. Yet, a wave of anxiety washed over her as she neared the oasis of flavor. The restaurant loomed ahead, a place that once represented her dreams but had turned into a symbol of her past pain. As she walked, memories flooded back. The laughter of customers, the sizzling pans, and the smell of fresh bread. But intertwined with those memories was the darkness of her humiliation. Taking a deep breath, Marigold pushed open the door to the cafe where she once worked, hoping to find comfort in familiar faces. Inside, the atmosphere was warm and welcoming. A few former colleagues were gathered, sharing stories over coffee. When they spotted Marigold, their faces lit up. "Marigold, you're back!" Sarah exclaimed, rushing over to embrace her. "How have you been?" I've rebuilt my life, Marigold replied, a smile breaking through her nervousness. I've started baking again. That's amazing, said Tom, another former co-worker. We always knew you had talent. You should show us what you can do. But as they chatted, Marigold's heart sank as she listened to their stories. Each of them had faced struggles under Harold's management. I thought I was alone, she said quietly, her voice trembling. I didn't know others felt the same way. We all did, Sarah replied, her tone serious. Harold has a way of making us feel small. He installed cameras in the kitchen, claiming it was for safety, but really, it was just to watch us. Cameras, Marigold echoed, her anger rising. That's an invasion of our privacy. Tom nodded, his expression grim. It was terrifying. We were always on edge, never knowing when he was watching. It's hard to work like that. Marigold felt a fire ignite within her. She was not just a victim of Harold's cruelty. She was part of a community that had suffered together. We need to do something about this. This isn't right, she declared, determination filling her voice. As they shared more stories, Marigold felt a surge of inspiration. She had come to the town hoping to reconnect with her roots and visit her grandmother, but now she saw a greater purpose. I want to open a bakery, she revealed to her friends, a place where people can feel safe and empowered. That sounds incredible, Sarah said, her eyes shining with excitement. You have to do it. I can help, Tom added. We can all help. Let's create something beautiful from our pain. Marigold's heart swelled with gratitude. For the first time in a long time, she felt a sense of belonging. They spent the afternoon brainstorming ideas for her bakery, discussing recipes, and planning how to make it a space of healing and joy. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the cafe, Marigold felt the weight of her past start to lift. I want to turn this pain into something positive, she said, her voice steady. I want this bakery to be a place where everyone feels valued. Her friends nodded in agreement, their faces reflecting the hope that had been rekindled. They talked late into the evening, sharing dreams and aspirations, laughter mingling with the bittersweet memories of their past. When Marigold finally left the cafe, she felt lighter. She had come home to confront her past, but now she was ready to embrace her future. The echoes of her past would not define her. Instead, they would fuel her journey to create something beautiful. With each step away from the oasis of flavor, she felt a renewed sense of purpose, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Marigold stood outside the oasis of flavor, her heart racing. It was reopening night, and the air was thick with tension. She took a deep breath, feeling a mix of fear and empowerment. Tonight was the night she had decided to confront Harold. She could see the warm lights glowing from inside, the laughter and chatter of customers spilling out into the street. But to her, it was a place filled with memories of shame. As she pushed the door open, the familiar scents of food and spices hit her. The restaurant had been renovated, but the memories lingered like ghosts. She spotted Harold behind the counter, his presence still commanding and imposing. He had not changed much, still wearing that smug smile that made her stomach turn. Marigold walked to the center of the room, her palms sweaty. She could feel the eyes of the customers on her, a mix of curiosity and surprise. Taking a deep breath, she cleared her throat. "Excuse me, everyone," she called out, her voice shaking but steady. The room fell silent. All attention turned to her. "Tonight, I want to share something important," she continued, her heart pounding. "I used to work here, and many of you may know my story. I was humiliated and dismissed by this very man." She pointed at Harold, her voice rising with emotion. "He took my dignity and my dreams, just to make a point." Gasps filled the room, and Marigold felt a surge of adrenaline. She was finally reclaiming her voice. "I am not alone in this. Many of my former co-workers have suffered the same fate under his management. Harold installed cameras in the kitchen not for safety, but to keep control over us. It was about power, not protection." The audience shifted, murmurs of disbelief rippling through the crowd. Marigold could see some familiar faces in the crowd, her old colleagues looking shocked yet intrigued. One of them, Lisa, whispered, "You go, Marigold," encouraging her to continue. Marigold took a step closer to the customers. "I know many of you love this place, but it's time to understand the truth. The food you enjoy comes from hard work, but it also comes from a dark past. We deserve better than this." A man in the back shouted, "What do you mean by dark past?" His question hung in the air, but Marigold welcomed it. This was her chance to shed light on the truth. Harold used fear to control us. He treated us like we were nothing, but we are more than his shadows. We have stories, dreams, and rights. Her voice rang clear, echoing in the silence of the room. Slowly, people began to nod in agreement. Marigold noticed some of her former co-workers standing taller, emboldened by her words. The tension shifted from fear to solidarity. She could sense that they were ready to stand with her. Tonight is not just about reopening this restaurant. It's about reopening our voices, our dignity, and our dreams. We will not be silenced anymore, Marigold declared, her heart swelling with hope. Harold's face turned red with anger. He stepped forward, ready to defend himself. "You think you can just come in here and ruin everything? You have no idea what it takes to run a business." Marigold stood firm, meeting his gaze. "I know what it takes to survive. I have rebuilt my life from the ashes you left behind. You may run this restaurant, but you do not own our voices." A wave of applause erupted from the audience, echoing against the walls. Marigold felt a rush of warmth and strength. She had ignited something in them, a spark of courage that had long been extinguished. As the applause faded, she turned and looked at her former colleagues. They were smiling, their faces lit with newfound hope. "Let's stand together and support one another. No more fear, no more silence," she urged. The crowd began to cheer, and Marigold felt tears prick at her eyes. This was not just her confrontation, it was a collective awakening. It was a turning point, not just for her, but for everyone who had suffered in silence. Tonight, she had not only reclaimed her voice, but had also ignited a fire in others. As she stood there, surrounded by support and solidarity, Marigold knew that the echoes of her past would no longer haunt her. They would instead serve as a foundation for a brighter future. In the quiet aftermath of Marigold's confrontation with Harold, a sense of calm washed over her. She stood outside the oasis of flavor, the weight of her actions settling like a warm blanket. The fear that had once gripped her heart now felt like a distant memory. Marigold took a deep breath, allowing the cool evening air to fill her lungs. She had finally found her voice, and it was powerful. As she walked away from the restaurant, she noticed a group of her former co-workers huddled together, their expressions a mix of relief and uncertainty. Marigold approached them, her heart racing with a new sense of purpose. "Hey, everyone," she said, her voice soft yet firm. "I know it's been hard for all of us." "Marigold," called out Sarah, a waitress who had worked alongside her years ago. "You were amazing in there. I can't believe you stood up to him like that." Marigold smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her. "I couldn't have done it without all of you. We've all been through so much." One by one, they began to share their experiences. James, a cook who had faced Harold's wrath many times, spoke first. "I always thought it was just me. I felt so alone when he would yell for no reason. Hearing you today gave me hope." Tears glistened in Marigold's eyes as she listened. "You are not alone. None of us are. We need to support each other." The group grew more animated as they exchanged stories, each revelation strengthening their bond. They laughed at the memories of good times, but also cried for the injustices they had faced. Marigold felt a stirring inside her, a desire to turn their pain into something constructive. "What if we organized a community event?" she suggested, her mind racing with ideas. "We could invite everyone to share their stories and create a safe space for healing." Sarah nodded vigorously. "That sounds amazing. We could use our cooking skills. Food always brings people together." Marigold's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Exactly. we can cook together, share recipes, and talk about what we've been through. It could be a day of healing and awareness. As the group rallied around the idea, Marigold felt a sense of purpose grow within her. They set a date for the event and divided tasks among themselves. Each of them brought their unique skills to the table, and Marigold felt the energy shift from despair to hope. Days passed, and the community event began to take shape. Marigold spent hours preparing, her mind focused on creating a warm and inviting atmosphere. She gathered ingredients, decorated the space with colorful bunting, and set up tables for sharing stories. On the day of the event, the cafe buzzed with energy. People arrived, some familiar faces from the past, and others new. Marigold welcomed everyone with open arms, her heart swelling with gratitude. "Thank you all for being here today," she began, standing in front of the crowd. "This is a space for us to share and heal. Each of us has a story, and together we can create a community that supports and uplifts one another." The room filled with chatter as people began to share their experiences. Marigold moved around, helping to serve food and facilitate conversations. She felt a sense of joy as laughter echoed through the space, the aroma of delicious dishes filling the air. Later, as the sun began to set, Marigold gathered everyone together. "Let's take a moment to reflect on what we've shared today. We've all faced challenges, but together we can rise above them." One by one, people spoke up, expressing their gratitude for the event and for each other. Marigold felt tears of joy spill down her cheeks as she listened. This was what she had dreamed of, a community coming together to heal and support one another. As the day came to a close, Marigold looked around at the smiling faces, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. She had transformed her pain into a source of empowerment, not just for herself, but for everyone in the room. "Thank you for being part of this," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "Together, we can continue to support each other and make our voices heard." And in that moment, Marigold knew that she was no longer just a victim of her past. She was a beacon of hope, ready to lead others on their journeys of healing. The sun began to set as the community event unfolded in the heart of Marigold's hometown. Colorful banners adorned the walls of the transformed oasis of flavor, once a place of humiliation, now buzzing with laughter and the delightful aroma of food. Marigold stood at the entrance, a warm smile on her face, as she watched people mingle. Friends embraced, and strangers exchanged stories, creating an atmosphere filled with hope. "Look at this place," said Lucy, one of Marigold's old co-workers, her eyes shining with excitement. "It's like a dream come true, Marigold. I can't believe we're finally here." Marigold nodded, her heart swelling with pride. "I wanted to create a space where everyone feels safe and supported. We all deserve that." As people gathered around tables set up under string lights, Marigold took a moment to reflect. Each story shared was like a thread weaving a tapestry of resilience. She could hear snippets of conversations filled with laughter, but also with memories of pain and struggle. It was a reminder of the journey they had all taken. At one of the tables, a group of women spoke softly. "I never thought I would feel comfortable talking about what happened at the restaurant," one of them said, her voice trembling. "But today, I feel brave." Marigold walked over, her heart racing. "You are brave. Sharing your story is powerful," she said, encouragingly. "We are all here for each other." As the evening progressed, Marigold moved to the front of the room. She cleared her throat, and the chatter slowly quieted down. "Thank you all for being here tonight. This event is not just about food, it's about community and healing. Together, we can create a safe space for everyone." The crowd clapped, and Marigold felt a surge of energy. She continued, "I want to share my dream with you. I plan to open a bakery that focuses on inclusivity and support. A place where anyone can come and feel welcome." A cheer erupted from the crowd. "Yes, we believe in you, Marigold," shouted a familiar voice. It was Tom, another former co-worker who had faced his own struggles. "Thank you, Tom," Marigold replied, her voice filled with gratitude. "This bakery will not only serve delicious treats, but also provide workshops for those who want to learn and grow. We can lift each other up." Just then, the door swung open and Harold Whitman walked in. The laughter and chatter faded into a tense silence. Marigold's heart sank, but she stood tall. Harold's presence brought back a rush of memories, but she refused to let fear take over. "Is this a community gathering or a pity party?" Harold sneered, scanning the room with disdain. "You all should be ashamed of yourselves." Marigold inhaled deeply, feeling the support of her friends around her. "No, Harold. This is a celebration of strength and resilience. We will not let you silence us anymore," she declared, her voice steady. The crowd rallied behind her, their faces set with determination. "We stand together," Lucy shouted, raising her fist in solidarity. Harold's eyes widened, but he quickly regained his composure. "You think this will change anything?" "I still run this town," he said, trying to intimidate them. "Not anymore," Marigold replied firmly. "We are taking our power back. No one deserves to be treated the way you treated us. This is our new beginning." With that, the crowd erupted in cheers, their voices echoing in the room. Harold's expression shifted from arrogance to disbelief. He realized that he was no longer in control. As the event continued, Marigold felt a wave of relief wash over her. The community, once fractured by fear, had united in strength. The bakery project was no longer just her dream, it was a shared vision, a promise to uplift each other. Later that evening, as the last of the guests left, Marigold stood outside, looking up at the stars. She turned to Lucy and Tom, who had stayed to help clean up. "Tonight was incredible," she said, her voice filled with hope. "It was," Lucy agreed. "You've changed everything, Marigold. We all have a new beginning now." Marigold smiled, knowing that every step she had taken had led to this moment. The echoes of her past had shaped her, but now they inspired others to rise against their challenges. As she looked ahead, she felt ready to embrace the future, hand in hand with her community. Share this story if you believe that community and resilience can transform lives. Leave a comment about a time when you found strength in unity, and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories like this one. Together, we can uplift each other and create safe spaces for all.